Ride.
I'm McCartney.
I'm Stoney.
And we told you guys last week we'd have a big guest on. We try to keep our end of the promise. So, Nick, introduce yourself, man.
Nick Lee. I wrestled. Were we ever on the same team in high school?
No, we were I was an 8th grader on your last year. I was obviously on the team with Matt and Joe, but never on your team.
Yeah, so we went through the same feeder program and stuff, but I just finished up wrestling at Penn State, and I had a pretty successful career there and senior level a little bit too, and I'm still wrestling. So
awesome. So I was talking to you a little bit last week about coming onto the podcast. You said you were really busy last week. I saw you were in Miami training with American Top Team. So the first question I've written down is have any fighters reached out to you and asked you to kind of help with their training camp, or is that something you'd be interested in doing in the future?
I haven't done any training camps. I've worked with people individually. But I would be open to doing training camp stuff. I have my own training, so it's better for me right now just to kind of do it piecemeal. But I like working with fighters and stuff because they're really attentive and they want to learn wrestling. And you can make a lot of progress with little things, which is kind of hard at the higher levels of wrestling. So I really enjoy it. But it was a lot of fun. American Top Team took care of me. So
yeah, that's awesome.
And obviously you probably know Bo Nickel real good. Does that have any influence on you, ever stepping into the octagon yourself, or are you kind of undecided on if you want to take that route?
I don't think I will, but I enjoy, learning the different mixed martial arts. I think it's just cool to learn. Everyone should learn it a little bit just because, but I don't think I'll compete. It doesn't interest me right now.
I see obviously Penn State is super up to date with the whole keeping MMA guys with you guys. I know Dom Cruz has helped RBY a lot, at least that's what it looks like to the average person, because I see RBY and Dom Cruz together all the time, so that's awesome. But also have the next thing. So for those of you guys who didn't see Nick's finals match last year against Jaden Ironman in the finals of NCAAs, I think it had pretty much everyone on the edge of their seat. So I just wanted to ask you, when you're in a big moment like that, what goes through your head? Are there a lot of nerves, or are you just staying in the moment, or just trusting your training, or what goes through your head in big moments like that?
Yeah, it's just wrestling, right? But whenever they go into overtime or whatever, it's another minute of wrestling. So you don't really change anything or, do anything crazy. You just kind of stay the course, especially if it's been working throughout the match. And it's almost, you kind of think of it like a game of chicken, who's going to try to do something crazy or, break their stance first. And whoever does that is usually the guy that loses. So, I just kind of continued to wrestle the same match, and it worked out.
Yep.
So going back to competition, is there any movies or TV shows that you'd watch prior to maybe just kind of clear your mind and stay relaxed, or almost get you a little hyped up or get a laugh?
I don't like getting hyped up necessarily, but I watch usually just kind of whatever funny show is popular lately. I watch a lot of Family Guy just on the road, or shows like that, just kind of adult animation. They're just mindless and funny. And so if I watch stuff, that's kind of what I watch, or if I have a show or something that I'm into at the time. So yeah, but not. I don't like to get hyped up or anything.
For sure. Awesome. So I have some Instagram posts I'll put on the screen. You said June 4th, you post a picture of you and your Nittany Lion Wrestling singlet. It says "Stay Classy, San Diego." We're huge Anchorman fans. That was the movie of the summer here at Purdue. So just want to know if you were a big Ron Burgundy fan.
Yeah, I like Ron Burgundy. Very classy guy.
Yeah, for sure. That's
a really good movie. So you guys asked me to put together my favorite movies. That was the most impossible task of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through the same struggle. When we started this, me and Sony were let's incorporate something into this podcast where it's almost like a routine. So I had to come up with my top 10, and I found the same struggle. That's a hard thing to do. And then December 23rd, 2019, it's a picture of you standing next to your Christmas tree. It says sometimes 1/4 of your tree lights up. So the other 3/4 has to come from your personality. Hashtag just started Naruto. So just
Good
wondering, are you a big anime guy? I mean, obviously you started Naruto. Did you finish it, or where do you stand with that?
I finished it. It was phenomenal. There's like, I think what turns people off to that stuff is there's a lot of like cultural things that are a little bit different, and the animation is a little bit different. And then there's a lot of in animes, there's a lot of like filler episodes as well, and so it turns people off to it. But one of my biggest complaints with Hollywood is how poor the writing and like there's not really original ideas anymore. And so one thing I like about anime is they're all adapted off of you know, what's it called? Manga. I don't read it, but it's usually adapted off like comic books, I guess would be it's the American equivalent. So it's usually like original ideas. And even if it's kind of the same story, like there's different concepts that make it interesting. So and Naruto is really, really good as well. So I think probably a groundbreaking show. And I think there's been others like it, but I mean, for sure, for its kind of genre killer.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that part. So are you ready? You want to dive into your top 10?
Yeah. So
10-1.
I have honor. I just like started writing down movies, and so I'll explain first off. It was really hard. There's so many different genres. There's so many different eras. So you have to factor in certain things. But number one is for my number one. Should I start with my number one or end with it?
End with your number one.
Yeah.
Start at number 10. That's possible.
All right. Well, let me go through my honorable mentions because I have a bunch of honorable mentions.
Awesome.
My honorable mentions are Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, phenomenal comedy, Tropic Thunder, The Green Mile, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I have to honorable mention both Ari Aster horror films, Hereditary and Midsummer, both incredible. Pirates of the Caribbean, Waiting for the Barbarians, that's with Johnny Depp, phenomenal movie. The latest Top Gun, and then this one was really hard. Like it was really hard for me to cut this from my top 10, but it was Equilibrium with Christian Bale.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal movie. It didn't get enough credit because there was The Matrix coming out at the same time, I think. And then oh shoot, I need to take one. I just counted. I have 11. Let me take off. All right, another honorable mention: the Dracula series on Netflix. It's a 3-part series. Phenomenal. You guys gotta watch it. Okay. I don't know if these are in the right order necessarily, but we'll just go with it. My number one's in the right order, but I have Fantasia, which is basically it's just animation set over like some of the best music like ever composed. So really good. People probably watch Fantasia as kids for the most part. Then I had The Northman, which is a recent movie, and that's directed by Robert Eggers, and he directed The Witch as well, which is a horror movie. So that's a really good movie. I thought they did a really good job. A similar movie is called The Green Knight, which is on Netflix. Oh no, on Hulu maybe, but really good movie. And then I have Gladiator on there as well. Phenomenal movie, really good acting, really good writing.
Just watch it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I had to do this because they're from different eras, but I put Star Wars and then I put episode 5/3 because both of them. All right, so Star Wars episode 5 is The Empire Strikes Back, right? And so it's one of the first movies where it's like the bad guys win, right? So it's like the grandpa of Avengers, the one where the bad guys win, whichever one that was. I didn't think the Avengers movies were that good, to be honest. But that one, and then episode 3, same kind of thing, just really well done, especially the fight sequence between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, phenomenal. And then I have Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. That's a really good movie, old movie though. I have Braveheart.
Great.
I have It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
which is watched every year around Christmas time.
yeah.
Really good.
Dad's
And
favorite
then
movie. Love that movie.
yeah, and then number 2 is Godfather, which
Classic.
that should be on everyone's top 10, honestly,
Agreed.
um, just objectively. And then my number 1 favorite movie, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, is Disney's animated Mulan. I think it's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
couple
I like that.
that. Whenever I rank movies and whenever I kind of critique them, I think of number 1 is like the writing and
Mhm.
how the writing was. I don't mind if it's like overdone writing as long as it's good and you put it flawlessly into whatever era or setting you have. So that's fine. And then I take the music, so like the score, I factor that in, and the score of Mulan is phenomenal. One of the best movie scores probably ever composed.
Mhm.
Um, and then you have to factor in like when it was made. For when it was made, it was great. They didn't try to make the animation too real or too fake. Um, and then there's not acting, there's voice acting, but also spot on, like really fantastic. Excuse me. So that's my favorite movie of all time. I don't even know if it would be considered like best movie
Right.
in my opinion, but it's my favorite. So
Gotcha.
Awesome.
yeah.
So I didn't really hear many like fighting movies or anything, but like if you had to pick your favorite wrestling movie, it could be like a flow film too, because I know we had Matt Ramos on. We asked about his like flow
I
film.
think
You have a
hey,
favorite one?
unpopular opinion. I think wrestling movies suck. They just suck.
I
They're
agree.
not good.
I agree.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're not good. They're really, really bad. I mean, like fighting movies or stuff like that. Like I guess Rocky's pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's called Coach Carter. Is
Yep.
that
Yeah.
what it's called? Yeah, yeah, that's a good like movie like that. But still, I don't find the maybe it's because my life has been in a sport. I don't really enjoy like movies like that for some reason. But I mean, wrestling. I remember watching this movie called Pinned, and it
Yep.
was just kind of followed 2 high school uh,
Mhm.
wrestlers, and I think it was pretty good. I think it wasn't like I liked it because there wasn't any like aim to it. They were just following like 2 different stories, and it was decent. So if I had to pick
Mhm.
one.
I feel like people miss the concept of like wrestling and just like sports movies in general, and especially like wrestling. It's everyone's art form, so like they kind of just overlap it and overview it, and they never do a really good job in displaying on what it's like.
Yeah, I feel like we have this conversation like every podcast. I think the directors in advance. I know you're a big director guy. You look into like who the director is and if they did a good job. But I think with wrestling movies in general, like they could do such a better job with at least researching the sport a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's also very wrestling is very niche, right?
Mhm.
Like wrestling is it's not a sport like football or stuff like that. And so you have to understand that whenever you make a wrestling movie, it's only going to reach, a specific audience. And so if you're going to make it for only a specific audience, then you have to do your research and, make sure that you're representing it correctly, because if you don't represent wrestling correctly and it's not good, then you're missing the niche audience, and so your audience size is like tiny
For
because
sure.
your niche audience and no one else is going to watch it because they're not interested in wrestling. So that's a huge issue with making that would be an issue with making a wrestling movie in the first place. So if I was going to make like a movie about wrestling, I would adapt it from a true story and I would make it about like fighting or something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's more people are going to watch it, but
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah, I know you said you don't really like to get hyped up before matches. Is there any movie that if you were, let's say you're not watching before competition, is there any movie that you like your number one like hype movie? Like for me, I think it would have to be like Remember the Titans. I think that's a great movie to like really get
Oh
you
yeah.
hyped up. Is there any movie like that for you?
Mm. I remember there's a specific episode in the History Channel show called Vikings. There's a specific episode, and I think it's in season 4. And I don't want to spoil things, but basically, the main character is betrayed, and he gets his revenge in a very roundabout way that people don't expect. And that gets me pretty, like, I remember the first time watching that, I had goosebumps. That was really good. But I love the movie, or the show Vikings is phenomenal. So, and then
Gotcha.
I think maybe Northman might be a cool movie to get pumped up to. That's pretty good. Or
Gotcha.
any movie where there's like fighting sequences is pretty
Mhm.
awesome.
Right on.
Yeah.
Gladiator would be one. That was on my list. Gladiator would be one that probably gets you pumped up. But it's a long process of getting pumped up, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I saw on your Instagram and your Twitter. If you guys want to look at Nick's Twitter, I'll put the handle on here. But it's a lot of movie stuff. I've definitely looked at your Twitter before when I'm in need of a movie, and you go into a deep dive. That's why we definitely needed you on the podcast.
I fell off a little bit, but I need
But I saw on your Twitter and your Instagram you talk a lot about docudramas. I'm not really into, like, I don't really know what that is. So what is
to.
that, and like why do you like watching them?
The docudrama is like, it's the best example is The Men Who Built America. It's that's a docudrama, and essentially like it's a documentary where they interview historical experts and stuff, and they kind of tell you what happened, and then they interweave that with like um, acted out and staged like scenes of the people doing things. So an example would be interviewing a historian about like the Battle of the Somme in World War One, and then after the historian is done talking, they do a battle sequence to kind of show what a particular part of the battle would look like, and then they go back to the historian. So there's quite a few of those out there. They're pretty good,
Mhm.
but they're mostly for like long drive or
Mhm.
something to turn on while you're working or something.
Yep.
So
So awesome. Sometimes we talk about like recent movies we've watched and stuff. So has there been any new movies or recent movies that you've watched prior, like this week
Um,
before?
yeah, like the recent Top Gun was really good.
Mhm.
Um, I thought it was phenomenal. That was in my honorable mentions. It hasn't really stood the test of time yet, so I don't want to like go overboard saying it's in my top 10. I saw a movie. Honestly, this might be in my top 10 as well. Like I said, there's so many movies. But there's this Netflix show called Beasts of No Nation, which is about child soldiers in Africa, and that one makes you think if you want to like have a thoughtful time. But it'll make you really grateful for things. Um, the Game of Thrones stuff is really bad. It's
Have you
really, really
watched like the new House of Dragons?
I watched the first two episodes, and my rule is if you can't get me to like it in two episodes, I'm not going to watch it.
Right.
Because that's the biggest problem in America and American consumerism is um, we uh, incentivize poor movies because we see everything.
Mhm.
mhm.
We see everything, and so if we see something that we think we're not going to enjoy, like we have so much time and money that to waste that we go and see bad things, and so it sucks. So foreign movies honestly have been killing it. I watched this two-part series, two long movies called Bahubali. You have to watch it. It's a Hindu movie, and it is like the animation is subpar, but it's like so good. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's almost ironic, but it's like not. It's one of the best movies or two movies I've ever seen. They're fantastic. They're so good. But just because of the way in which they were made, because they were made unironically, and
Mhm.
you'll understand what that means after you watch it.
Mhm.
But so I can't count them as like a top 10 great movie, but they're fantastic. But yeah, foreign movies, there's a lot of really good movies that come out of like Korean cinema that's really good. And then we talked about like anime and stuff. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, a lot of good stuff. Oh, another one I watched recently was Apocalypto. That's another Mel Gibson movie. I think it's Mel Gibson, and that's a really good movie as well.
Gotcha. You talked about like foreign shows. Did you ever get into Squid Game at all?
I watched it a little bit. I didn't finish it. I thought it was. everyone kind of went crazy over it. I thought it was okay, but I think the reason people went so crazy thinking that it was so good is because a lot of people haven't been exposed to like foreign stuff before.
Mhm.
But like you put the storyline of that up next to an anime or something, like it's right along the same lines. And so I think just because I'd been exposed to that kind of story before, it didn't like shock me, and it was really good. There's another one. There's another show that's kind of like that. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it takes place in Tokyo, and basically people are in like it's they don't reveal kind of what the situation is, but basically people are put into a parallel reality where there's no one in Tokyo except for like a small number of people, and they have to take part in these crazy games in order to stay alive. And I'm forgetting what it's called, but if you look up kind of along the lines of what I said, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Um, that's like a common like Squid Game, like that kind of thing is that kind of storyline is pretty common in anime. Zombie movies are really popular in Korea. There's a show called Kingdom on Netflix that's I don't know if it's subbed or dubbed, but it's really good. It's like zombies in medieval Korea, crazy. But yeah, foreign movies kicking Hollywood's butt right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a recent TV show that kind of we've watched and a lot of people on our team, the Dahmer series. I don't
I
know.
haven't watched it. It didn't. I watched the intros and it didn't interest me, and so I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I will say that I watched it and I haven't finished it, and I don't really plan on finishing it. I watched through episode 5. I think there's what, 10 of them.
Mhm.
I watched through
Yeah.
episode 5, and I don't want to say it gets repetitive, but it's like I don't
You
know.
know what's up?
I got bored.
Yeah, like there's been we've seen serial killer stuff before, and I don't know what kind of stuff they're putting in that movie, but just from what I saw, it looked like a movie that I just wouldn't, or a show that I just wouldn't really enjoy very much.
Mhm.
So I'd probably get annoyed by a bunch of things, and that's why I stopped watching the House of the Dragon. I saw a
Right.
bunch of things that annoyed me, and I was like, I'm not gonna keep watching this. So
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think another thing that is very odd about this, you see, like I saw Netflix dropped another thing about it's called the Dahmer tapes, which is like a
Yeah.
completely different thing. And then there's John
oh
Wayne
yeah,
tapes. Like, I think that it's really weird that Netflix and these companies are not idolizing, but they're making shows about these serial killers and then making tens of millions of dollars. And then you got to think about like these people who got killed and like their families, like seeing Netflix profit off all this stuff. I just think it's a really weird subject, but
And that's like
and
one thing. One of my professors was talking about like with shows and stuff, like everybody wants to focus on all the bad things that's ever happened.
mhm,
Like you'll have the occasional like good thing that's happened, but they want to focus on all the bad things. And then we're talking on like if the parents of the victims could even watch the show and how
yep,
some of them were watching and some of them weren't. But
mhm,
like in
yeah,
today's society, I feel like everybody wants to see a villain movie or
yep,
the villain series, which I don't know.
yeah.
But,
I
yep,
think it's like it's because like serial killers are so strange, and it's
mhm,
like to us like we can't even imagine doing that. Like it's something that people like aren't ever gonna do, and so they want to like see like they want to get inside like the mind of someone like that. Like, and so they're already like what drives characters to make movies popular is if you're an interesting character. So you have these people in real life that were crazy, and so they don't have to write a character because it's a person in real life. And so, I mean, that's that. And then girls love serial killer stuff. I don't know why it's weird, but
I agree.
yeah, but they won't watch like scary stuff.
yeah,
Horror movies are like the best. That's one of the best genres that's still
Mhm.
in uh, that's still alive in America is the horror movie genres. There's really good directors that are making really good stuff. That's not just like pop up scares. It's like
mhm,
actually good writing.
We
yep,
actually just watched Smile. I don't know if you've seen the
Oh,
trailer.
how was it?
It was
Out? It's
it
out
was
now.
scary, but like it was honestly like they did a really good job, and like it really kind of messes with your mind. But I think
yeah.
Yeah,
they did a really good job with it.
It was more of like a psychological movie than like a conventional horror movie, which
Mhm.
was weird. But yeah, that the show got me a little messed up. So yeah, I don't
that's
know.
that's what makes movies really good. Is like
Mhm,
whenever it's watch, probably anybody can do pop up scares. Like
mhm,
anybody can. scares. But whenever you make something that like bothers people, like after like they're watching the movie, like that's really good. I think there's an old show that again I probably should have included in my honorable mentions called The Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah.
That was like the, in my opinion, there's a lot of movies where if you go back, there's like a pair for the movie
Yep.
and an episode of the Twilight Zone, and they got the concept directly from the Twilight Zone. So if you go and watch the Twilight Zone, it's like, hey, I've seen this before. And so like a lot of people borrow from that for ideas, like concepts for their movies, and a lot of times it's not even subtle.
Yeah.
But Black Mirror is a lot like it's pretty much modern Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So, but both really good. They just like bother you, and that's good television.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. Nick, thank you for coming on. Tune in next week. DM us on Instagram, and see you guys next week. Thank you.
All right, boys. Thanks. See you.
Yep. See it.